What's up, everybody? This is Sully with Sully Speaks. So today we're talking to Danielle. She is a nurse, about to be a nurse practitioner. She's about to open up her own facility, focusing on the urban community and helping a lot of Muslims out with their health care. Hopefully, partner up with her husband, who's going to help with mental health because they both are educated and have degrees. So we're talking to her and we talk about a lot of stuff. We talk about men's health, women's health. I got a list. We talk about the COVID vaccine. Ooh, girl, that is good. We talking about marriage, preparing your young child for marriage. Preparing your teen for becoming a woman and maybe interested in getting married. We get it in on this one. So stay tuned. Let's talk. Sully Speaks. Bye.
This is one of the makeup ones. So it's just that part that's quirky.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. All right. So hello, everybody. This is Sully with Sully Speaks. I have here, I'm going to let you introduce yourself. Please talk about your position, what you do, and let everybody know, while the original point of us talking, we're going to talk about a whole bunch of other stuff. I did it live so everybody can answer any questions she wants because she's a nurse and she's almost a nurse practitioner. She's a nurse practitioner student. So she's like this close to being an almost doctor. So go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good morning. My name is Sabira Ali. My professional name is Danielle. I am a registered nurse. I've been a nurse for 23 years. Most of my experience comes by way of pediatrics. I do have some experience in maternity health and women's health, and I do have some experience in mental health as well. High-tech nursing as far as pediatrics is concerned. And right now, I'm studying here at one of the local universities for my family nurse practitioner to be completed, inshallah, next year in 2022. So with the permission of Allah, I will be the premier provider for women and children in the Philadelphia and Delaware areas. So
get it in.
Let's pray with me on that, that we are successful.
May Allah increase you and help you. Does it seem like you want to help the people? You can especially help the Muslim woman.
Ameen.
So make dua for the sisters that she's successful and get her degree, even though she has plenty of experience right now. So I had contacted her because I had posted something about the COVID vaccine because I'm like suspect and I'm not trying to have my face all to the side. So do you want to tell me what you can tell me without you getting in trouble?
Okay, so here's what we know. We know that typically vaccines take years to develop and come into formation before it's approved through the FDA and all the regulatory, red tape before it's approved to be used in the general population. What we also know is that COVID-19 has devastated the American society as well as international societies. We know that there's a disparity in healthcare amongst Black and Brown people when they enter into the healthcare system. And so this vaccine has come about and, they say that the trials are good. They say that people have seen some immunity with the vaccine. So my position on it is, as a clinician who's already had the coronavirus, I had it very early on in March. And so my family struggled with it. A few of my nurse friends, them and their family struggled with it. My advice to the general population is to do your research, talk with your providers because they know you best. They know your comorbidities, your risk factors, and decide whether or not you think the vaccine is appropriate for yourself and your family. And that's the best I can tell you in terms of that. For myself, I will not be taking the vaccine. My family, we are not taking the vaccine. And the main point of it is because, we've had our titers taken and It shows that we have immunity. So there's no reason for us to take the vaccine. So that's why I think it's important that you talk to your provider and figure out what's best for you and your family.
Okay. So if you feel like if you have the immunity, how does that process finding out if you have the immunity go? Like, what do you have to do?
Right. So if you suspect that you may have had the novel coronavirus, the first thing you need to do is go to your provider, explain to them what your symptoms were. Because a lot of people had symptoms, and early on, we thought it was the flu. They weren't quite sure what it was. So once you explain to your physician or your clinician what you experienced, they'll send you to the lab. So once you go to your lab, your Quest or your LabCorp, the hospital lab, wherever you go, and they'll draw your blood. So
Mm-hmm.
you'll know within 24 to 48 hours whether or not your body has built up antibody to the coronavirus. And if you have those antibodies, then I would say it's not necessary for you to take the vaccine at that time. The issue that we're seeing is whether or not immunity from actually having the virus is long-term immunity or if it wanes after some time.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, what about the mutation of the virus? Do you feel like with the immunity, because I feel like I may have had it as well, but do you feel like, because at first I thought I had bronchitis, and then I had bronchitis, and I don't know, but nobody else in my family had, and in my like immediate family had it. And I'm like, well, maybe this is a bit more than bronchitis because this feels a little bit more heavier. Like it was like me, I was having like trouble breathing. I would wake up in the middle of the night, like I was scared. With it felt like it was a whole a
Right,
bookshelf on my chest. So I kind of felt like I may have
right,
had it,
right,
but this was like in the
right.
early stages, maybe March or something like that, like you said. But would it, because everybody's seeing the mutation of the virus, do you think our bodies can keep up
Right.
with the mutation?
So here's what happens. Like with most vaccines, they have different strains. So it's the same thing like when we get the flu vaccine every year. It protects us against the most virulent strain of the virus.
Mm-hmm.
So we may be protected against the most virulent strain, and what that means is we may have protection, or we may get the vaccine that will protect us against the one that they say is the really bad strain of the virus.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not really sure with the mutations that they're having with the coronavirus, which we expected that it would change its DNA because it's tricky, right? It doesn't want us to be able to eradicate it.
Yeah.
So it's tricky. So it's changing its DNA and it's saying, I'm not going anywhere. So right now, the vaccine that's out right now, to my understanding, cannot protect against this new strain because the vaccine that's out now is to provide protection from what we already knew existed
I need my
and not this new strain.
I need my tea on this one.
Right.
You got some tea? We need to be sipping. I'm with it. I'm with it.
Right.
So,
Right. So, I mean, it's one of those things where, like, every year somebody will say, and you may have heard people to say, well, I got the flu shot and I still got the flu.
mm-hmm.
But what strain of flu did you get? Did you die? You probably didn't get the one.
Did you die?
Right. Right. Well, because we want to protect against the ones that we know are going to kill people. So that's how they make their vaccine.
Okay, just to state, you're definitely not anti-vaxxer. You're definitely,
Right.
pro-vaccine. You're not.
Yeah, I am pro-vaccine.
You're not.
Yes, I am pro-vaccine. Yes.
Listen, girls, but I'm just trying to get some information. So that's also. So have you seen anyone with? Because I've seen a lot of reports. A lot of people who are saying they having the palsy, their face falling, the face sloping. Have you seen anyone with those after taking the vaccines? The people that you know who took the vaccines have had bad reactions, no matter what they are.
I have not. What I have seen from my nurse friends and from patients is I've seen the redness, the localization of the swelling at the site of the injection,
Mm-hmm.
which can happen with any vaccine that you get. I've heard that some folks had body aches, and some chills. But remember, when you get a vaccine, you're not getting a live injection of a live virus.
Mm.
So they're not actually being injected with the coronavirus in its live form. It's a deactivated form of the virus that they're receiving, so that their body will recognize it as a foreign substance and develop antibodies to it. So I've only heard of people getting, and these are from my nurse friends that I've asked, oh, my arm was a little sore. Can you compare it to the soreness that you get when you get a tetanus vaccine? You can compare it to that. But have we gotten the tetanus? Have we gotten the diphthoid or the tetanus from getting the vaccine? We have not. We've developed immunity from it.
Mm.
So those are the things that I've seen, and the people that I've spoken to and witnessed with the vaccine.
Okay, how do you feel like there are a lot of people declining, like as far as professionals, declining, or most of them are taking?
Well, I tell you what, I'm not clear on the percentages, but I do know that people are declining the vaccine
Mm.
for reasons such as myself. You say, I've already had it. Why should I now get the vaccine if I already had it? I'd
Mhm.
rather test my titers, and if they start to decrease, then I'll consider maybe getting the vaccine. But right now, I've seen both. I've seen people that say, I'm a believer in herd immunity. I want to protect my community. I want to protect my parents. I want to protect my patients. And so I'm going to get the vaccine in hopes that we'll have herd immunity. And other folks are saying, I'm just not sure. People are saying, it's not enough time. It's not enough research. It's not enough data to convince me. And then you got the folks that say, listen, I battled with Corona and I'm not getting the vaccine. So at this stage, until they make it mandatory, we'll start to see people who are saying, I'm just not ready. I'm not sure yet.
Do you feel like they're going to make it mandatory?
I think that at this early stage, it would be difficult only because there's not enough research.
Mm.
I think everyone is afraid because of the number of people who are dying, the hospital beds filling up. And it's a reality that,
Are
in
you really feeling
California,
that? Because you have your naysayers. You have
right,
naysayers. Like, and I'm down south, so I'm not seeing the hospital beds filling up.
right,
I don't know, but up north they may be.
right.
So it's like I don't. But then they're telling us on the news the COVID count and not telling us the death count. Because COVID, I feel like COVID is here to stay. You
Right,
get COVID just like you get the flu.
right.
It's hard. It's something to go through. It's like a hard flu to me, but it's survivable for most people. But if you don't survive it, then to me you had underlying conditions, like you were older, you may had bad health, and it contributed it.
Well,
So
I don't know because we have the young folks. We've got those young folks that they said would not contract the virus
hmm,
that did and turned into super spreaders, and then we have folks with no underlying conditions that died.
hmm,
So it's one of these things that we're very unsure about. And as we know, the only sure knowledge is what comes from Allah and His Messenger, and
right.
everything else is speculative knowledge. But at the same time, you want to tie your camel, you want to do your research, know the facts as they come. And right now, the facts change based on what they're seeing with science. And that's how we know it's speculative. But we see things changing from day to day, week to week.
Hmm.
So, I can understand why people are saying, I'm not sure if I believe you because you don't believe yourself. So I'm not sure.
Yeah, because it's a lot. It's a lot because it's like they shut our economy down, they shut our lives down.
Right,
We weren't able to practice religion the way
right.
we were supposed to, the way we used to doing so in America. And to me, some people think it's political. Sometimes I feel like it's political because this is the only way that they can control us. So I feel like some governors or some mayors might be taking advantage of this. And because it was like in Philadelphia, y'all seem to still do what y'all want to do, but down here, the messages were shut down. Like it's still not a lot of stuff allowed to happen.
Right.
And the Eid celebrations, that's a
We
no
didn't have
go.
we didn't have we
Yeah,
didn't have
but it was like in Philly, I know certain masjids was still open for 5 salawats, but it
right.
wasn't like that for a long, long time down here.
Right. So at the masjid that I attend, we cannot go into the masjid. And
Women,
so
women are just everybody.
the women cannot go into the masjid, and they limited how many men could go into the masjid. I think it's under 20. It's under 20. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if things have changed because there have been times when my husband was like, well, I don't know if I'm going because by the time I get there,
It's full.
it's full. And we live in a suburb outside of Philadelphia. So for us to drive in
Mm,
and then you can't get in, he's like, I just drove 40 minutes and I can't get in. This is a problem.
mm.
Right. So I do know that we have not been previously allowed to come into the masjid. I did see something online that said open to women. So I was actually going to call and see if they meant, on mix or a speaker, or if we can actually come into the masjid for the classes.
Right, because they be tricky with it.
Right. So I said I was going to call and see, to make sure that I didn't take that drive and not be able to get into the masjid.
Yeah, it's a hurt piece. I know a lot of women are hurting right now because the message is a hurt, especially in America. Because maybe I just talked to a sister because overseas is just because Islam is everywhere.
Right.
But in here we covet it so hard, like the
Right.
Eid. And being a Philly, I used to masjid hop during
Right.
the Eids. You go to Sister Claire Muhammad sometimes, even though it's not Salafi, but you go there just for that fish platter.
Right.
Hopefully you get there just enough in time for the kids to get a present.
Right.
You go to every Salafi masjid. You just hop around and you go and you have fun because that's our day of celebration.
Right. Right. Even our winter conference was, it was very different this year. As you know, we just came out of winter conference, and it used to be a thing of, oh my God, we ain't gonna have no room because everybody's coming from all the different states.
Right, the basement. The second, third floor.
Right. Trying to find your husband afterwards. He'd be like, I'm downstairs. Which downstairs? Like, just meet me on the corner. Stand over there because
your black hole losing out.
Right. And this year it was just not. We didn't have that this year. So, it was a disappointment. But we just thank Allah much for the opportunity to live another day and to be safe and to be able to worship Him in our homes with our family and really concentrate more on the worship of Allah and remove those distractions.
Ramadan wasn't bad for me. It wasn't bad because it was like I wasn't worried about we gotta hurry up and get to the masjid.
Right.
It was more of an inner focus.
Right.
As bad as I thought it was.
Right. It was more family focused. We were able to pray on time.
Mm-hmm.
And it was different, but I think the kids were able to see something different, and that even when everything is going wrong in the world, we're still believers, and we're still going to celebrate, and we're still going to love on each other, exchange our gifts and everything like that. So I think they saw something different this year.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. I liked it this year, but I still miss having my sisters around and
right.
But inshallah, Allah will ease it up and provide us with something different this year. But if not, then it's a qadr of Allah and we find good in what He decreed. So let's talk about another subject. Let me check to see if we got any questions because I want people to ask questions. It's your opportunity to ask some questions, y'all. Let's talk about women's health. We find good in what He decreed. Let's talk about women's health, and we didn't get any questions yet. And seeing what information can you give us on women's health? Like, can you talk to us about that?
Sure. We can talk about like when the girls first start getting their menses.
Mm-hmm.
It's an emotional time. We want to be ready. We want to be prepared. And what I tell the mothers of my patients with my own children is be ready. Have a go pack ready, right? So you go like to the dollar store or wherever and buy one of those little bags and just put your liners in there and put some cleansing cloths in there, and just make sure you're ready because if by chance your menses comes on while you're in school, you don't want to be embarrassed.
Yeah.
You want to have an extra pair, and that's like the very beginnings of it. Um, and then as we go through, it's very important that we're making a extension. It's very, very important that we're making a extension. And I know sometimes when you
Well,
have,
well, explain because you have to understand Muslims are not the only people who are listening.
okay.
So what is instija?
So it's the cleansing after you go to the bathroom, whether you pass urine or you pass feces, that you cleanse yourself with water in
Mm.
the bottles. Now I know, like I have a lot of Perry bottles here in the house because you
They're
can
the
buy
best
them.
ones. The one after you had a baby and they give you
Yes, I
the
have them.
best
I have, I have them. Yes, I have one for every member of the house, and I put their names on them. I decorate them so that they understand it's a natural thing. It's yours. Nobody's gonna share it with you, even though some people do share them. But like my daughter, she's like skittish. She's like, no, I'm gonna use my own stuff, because she's coming into that age where she's
ones.
like, I don't want to share with you all.
Mm-hmm.
So I went through all of that. It's very, very important to keep the areas clean,
And dry.
keep them dry, without odor. And it's just important. Plus, it's legislated that we clean ourselves. So even though it's like a women's health thing, it's also a religious piece to it also. So this is when we're indoctrinating our religion
Mm-hmm.
into every aspect of our lives. That
So for those people who don't use what we call just let's say cleansing, instija or cleansing,
mm,
what are some of the importance of using it as a woman? Because some people just don't know. Like
right.
Muslim or non-Muslim, why should you clean yourself?
Right, because the best cleaning is with water, right? And the force that comes from the bottle removes whatever germs might be inside of your urinary meatus. And the tissue,
Big word, y'all.
oh, was it your pee hole? Just to keep things from being in there, because if you're not cleaning yourself, you can put yourself at risk for having a urinary tract infection,
I know a
right?
lot of people suffer from them.
Right.
How often do you get people coming in just for UTIs?
Well, so UTIs are something that we triage over the phone unless there's a fever involved.
Mm.
And once there's a fever involved, that's because you've been suffering.
For a minute.
Yeah, you've been suffering longer than you should have.
Mm.
But once you first realize that you're having pain and you're having discomfort, it's not normal to have pain. It's not normal to burn when you pass urine. You need to say something right away. Many women, many girls, I would say between like 17 to like that 22, 23, they don't know. They don't know that they should be wiping from front to back
Mm.
instead of bringing germs from the back to the front.
Are you
Because,
serious?
yeah, yeah, you're supposed to wipe from the front to
No,
the
no, no.
back.
I'm sorry. Are you serious about people not knowing that?
They don't know. They
Oh.
don't know. They don't know. And the mother's the first madrasa. So if she doesn't know,
Mm.
then
And
she doesn't know.
first teacher.
Right. So
Mm-hmm.
your mother is your first teacher. That's where you learn everything from. So if she doesn't know and she doesn't tell you, then you don't know.
Hmm. Okay.
Right. Right.
I get it. I
So,
get it.
yeah. So we get a lot of that because if you're wiping in the wrong direction, imagine that you're bringing the E. coli bacteria to the front, to your
I
pee.
never, I never even thought of anyone doing that because it's like
Right.
growing up Muslim is just like we had that certain etiquette when it came
Right.
to using
Right.
it. So it's just like
Right.
I didn't think of anyone going from back to front.
Right. There's
So
a whole generation of people that don't know how to wipe. There's a
what
whole
advice
generation of
would
people.
you give moms with teens?
Right.
What teenage girls on how to, because
Right.
I don't have a teen, I have a 5-year-old, but I still want to know like what advice with all of your knowledge to prepare them for everything, like prepare them for we can talk about preparing them for marriage, preparing them just for everyday living. How should you take care of your area down there?
Right. So it starts like with everything. How do you become a woman? The children, the girls, they normally come in the bathroom with you. They
Mm-hmm.
come right in with you. And so there's your opportunity, even when they're not really understanding what you're doing. They see you getting your extension bottle. They see you,
Mm-hmm.
what you're doing with the right hand versus what you're doing with your left hand. They see what you're doing and they mimic you. They follow everything you're doing. And then when they're old enough to ask you questions, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
They have books out on anatomy that are not so vulgar and things like that, where they show you the difference between your pee hole and your actual vagina hole. Some people don't know you don't pee from your vagina, you pee from your pee hole. Some people don't know it.
Okay.
They don't. They don't
I'm
know
sorry,
it.
I'm quiet because I'm like I didn't think you wouldn't know this kind of stuff.
Right. Remember something. We only know what we experience in our families and our lives.
Mm.
And I guess I've been blessed enough to teach enough to know that not everybody knows it. And they
Think
may
so?
be even embarrassed.
Yeah.
They don't know. They don't know that your menstrual blood and your urine don't come from the same hole.
Mm-hmm.
Once they understand that, there's your opportunity to teach them. And so you have to keep this clean.
Mm.
You have to keep these areas clean. You have to keep them dry. You have to change your pads every so often. You know, it's important that you keep these areas clean. Or if stuff sits there, you don't even have to go into like bacteria and stuff. You say, well, if stuff sits there too long, you could get sick.
So even if they start, would you start your daughter off with tampons or pads?
Pads. I think tampons are invasive.
Especially for people who haven't experienced
Right,
STI.
right, right. Especially for those young girls that have no idea of anything sexual or anything like that. There's no need to even go into that. Right. So I would first teach them how to use a pad because now, if you want to teach them about tampons, you got to teach them about toxic shock syndrome. Now they're afraid.
I know.
They're afraid. Did I leave it in too long? It's been in 3 minutes. I need to go get it out. They can't focus on anything else because they're afraid.
Mm-hmm.
I would always start with pads because that's the primary basis to care. And that's where you learn how to be more clean, more diligent, how to wrap your stuff up properly, be more discreet with how you dispose.
Okay, alhamdulillah.
You hear my
So,
best friend?
cutie, cutie.
Yeah.
So, so, in reference to preparation for marriage, we don't fornicate. We're not supposed to fornicate. We're supposed to just get married. A lot of sisters
Right.
may or may not be virgins, but that's between them and their families.
Right.
For those who are and are very much not aware of proper preparation before marriage, what could you tell them?
The first thing I would tell them, because before you even figure out that you want to be married,
Mm-hmm.
because that in itself, and I have some friends that say my 16-year-old says she's ready to start looking for a husband.
Mm-hmm.
Alhamdulillah. She wants to be righteous,
May
right?
God reward her and me. Because
Right.
my 16-year-old come along. I'm please.
Right. But it's
I ain't trying to get in trouble because I don't know what child labor laws, but you know what I mean.
right, right. But she's ready. She says, I've watched you. I've watched you for 16 years. And I want to be just like you, Umi. I want to be
I would
respectful.
have cried. Wallahi, I would have cried at that point. I'd be like, husband, you better get
You
this
got to come home. You got to come home. It's an emergency.
Oh
Right,
God, I would have broke down in tears.
right, right. But that is the greatest compliment that I've watched you and your womanhood and how you mother us and how you love our father,
Mm,
how you prepare our food and how you prepare our clothes,
mm-hmm.
and how you pray with us and how you sit with us and you teach us. And I think I could be ready.
That is awesome. I would
Better.
imagine.
Listen, it's much better than the nightmare of having your 16-year-old come home to you pregnant with
Yeah.
no husband no values or anything else like that.
Alhamdulillah.
Right,
I want parents, even if they're not Muslim, to be open because understanding and living in the United States, living in a world that we do live in, if your kids come to you and telling you that they're ready for sex, it's a tremendous thing.
right,
I
right.
would never tell my son or my daughter have a boyfriend, have a girlfriend first.
Never.
Live the life. Go ahead and live your
Right,
life first.
right, right.
No.
I was at one of my friend's house and, they're Muslim. And my girlfriend was on the phone with someone who was a non Muslim.
Mm.
And so my girlfriend was saying, yeah, I think she's starting to like on this boy. I said, oh, alhamdulillah, they're ready to get married. And so the response that I got was so attacking. It was like, what do you mean? Like, get out of here. Talking about marriage. What do you mean?
Mm.
Well, you've looked at him. You've decided that you think you like him. Apparently, he likes you too.
But sisters be like, and I want my daughter to finish school.
Right.
And I'm
Right.
like, yo, how does marriage stop school?
Not at all.
Because you let them have a boyfriend. So what's
Right.
the difference?
Right.
And then she
Right.
comes home pregnant, and then the boyfriend don't want to be
Right.
with her. What
Right.
you do then?
And a child that has no rights to the father,
No rights, no last name. Has
no
your
last name, nothing, no inheritance. And the worst thing that your child or your grandchild could be is a child of the bed. That's the worst thing, to have no rights.
but people praise that.
Right.
People have baby showers.
Right. Right.
Ray just had a baby. Oh, he married? No, but that don't matter. And then they get an attitude with you. They get an
Right.
attitude with you, like because you
Right.
mentioned what was right.
Right. I'm
Got
gonna sit this one out. No, don't save your invitation. Save your paper. I'm gonna sit this one out. Yeah. Right. Right.
another zany baby coming. That's
Right.
my grandchild. I'm like, all right,
Right. Right.
congratulations, I guess.
Right. And there's no honor in that. And I think somewhere in American society we have lost honor.
But that's where you're right because back in the day, where because I have an older father, an older mother, they didn't have that. They
No.
were married. They
Right.
were married, and then it went from them being married to the next generation not being married and having a whole bunch of kids, and then we have the consequences of them just having
Right.
kids.
Right.
So it's consequences to people's actions.
Right. Right. So I remember people were like, "Oh my God," because I got married very young, very, very young. I was a teenager.
I'm doing that.
Oh my God! Like, what are you gonna do? I'm gonna go and live with my husband.
It's not that
And
serious.
right, right, right. I'm gonna live with my husband. Inshallah, I had me a baby or two, or three or four,
Because if you
five,
run away
maybe.
with your boyfriend,
Right,
then they've been all right. Like,
right, right, right.
I was married at 19. I wanted to be married earlier than that.
I too. I wanted to be married by 17 because I graduated high school. I was 17. I
Mm-hmm.
figured I could go from my parents' home to my husband's home. But didn't work like that. I wound up going to college, and then when I was ready to get married, by that time I was 18. So we got married, and I had my first child at 19.
Mm-hmm.
I kept having them ever since, you know. But it was married, you know.
And do
My
you
children,
find yourself being successful?
right, right,
Like
right,
people don't understand if you get married, you
right,
you you do school while you're married. It's not a big deal. Like, but everybody want to be a single mom. They think they praising it,
right,
and look at what it's done to our society.
right. No guidance, no
Look at the
guidance.
lack of morals that we have.
Right, 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 right. But in preparation, again, preparation is more than just you want to cook, you want to clean. You have to know how to be a wife, right? And there's a whole lot more to being a wife than being in the bed.
Mm-hmm.
You have to listen. You have to learn to be grateful, right? Because a lot of us, we're spoiled. So we're not grateful. We're not grateful for the things that we've been blessed with because we could have less,
Mm-hmm.
right? We're supposed to look to those with less for our gratefulness, not to those who have more because you're always going to want more,
Yeah.
right? You have to learn how to groom yourself properly, right? So that's the mother's job. You have to keep your hair done,
Mm-hmm.
you know? If your hair can't stay down, you got to figure out how to keep it down,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So makeup is not for everybody on the street, but certainly if your husband enjoys a pretty face, a made up face, and not all do.
No, because mine doesn't.
Mine either.
Okay, like when I do it, he's like, "Why?" I'm like,
Mine as well. Mine as well. Mine as well. I was just accused of caking up my face.
"But it'd be so cute to me," and I'm like,
Right,
"Oh, I'm decent." And he's like,
right, right. It was like all of 5 minutes. And
"Yes."
I was like, okay.
But
So,
even as a difference in men, like my husband likes my natural hair.
right.
And I remember when I got my hair done, I was in the salon. I got my hair dyed, and I was in there for like 4 hours. I came home. He was like, "Oh, you look cute." And then, because my husband's white, so first thing he's like, "You look like Becky, like version of Becky, Becky with the good hair." And I'm
Right,
like, he was like, "I could have, married a Becky if I."
right.
And
And
I'm
you're
like,
like, oh my goodness. I thought I was doing it, you know? I
"No."
wasn't, right,
He was like, "You look cute though." He was like, "But when you gonna wash up?"
right,
I was
right,
like, "Dang, babe."
right. I've had lots of those experiences where I went and tied up my hair and, thought I was doing something and I wasn't. Yeah,
About listening to his cues
you have to.
and
It's
understand.
important.
Yes, and a lot of women don't understand is a phrase going around that he's the prize because he is. And we as black strong women, I'm the prize. I got this. I got that.
Right,
You want me. You want me. It's him.
right,
It's him.
right. And a lot of those women are alone or they're frequently divorced.
Frequently divorced and not understanding why with their fifth baby dad, and
Right,
not getting the fact that the men, maybe the men that they're choosing or
right,
whatever, but if you find a good man, and you don't understand that you have to cater to him
right,
because I had this conversation with somebody and they said one strong statement: it is hard being a wife of a good man. And when they say that, not to say that it is, because you have to be a certain kind of woman to have a successful relationship with a good man.
right, right,
So you have to have a certain type of self security within yourself
right,
and understanding about how to accommodate him. Because if
right,
he's happy, the household is gel. That
right,
is flows.
right. Well, another thing that plagues our community is that we don't have fathers. So how do we know what a man is?
Mm,
We
mm,
don't have fathers. And our mothers take on this role where I'm your mama and your daddy. No, you're not.
mm.
You're my mother and my father is absent.
That is
There's a
that is
difference.
an extraordinary point. Say it again. Say it
Right,
two more time.
right. You're my mother. My father is absent.
Mm,
And that is huge because we have all this baggage. We have all this trauma, mental trauma, physical trauma, emotional trauma, sexual trauma. And then you got this man, a good man, but you don't know how to treat him
mm,
because you can't, because you don't know how to treat yourself,
mm.
right? And who's going to teach you? And by the time you figured out that you've got a good man, he's exhausted.
Yeah, yeah.
He's exhausted. He's burnt out. And now he's not going to leave you because there's really no justification, but he's
Yeah.
going to find him another wife that's going to love him, follow Quran and Sunnah, not act out, who's going to be religious, take care of his children, make sure his house is clean, make sure his clothes are clean, because he's getting up and go to work,
You're gonna
right?
work.
We just had this conversation before we went on, before we came on live.
Yes, because both our husbands was leaving out the work, and we was trying to get them out the work.
Right,
We were like, hold on.
Like, wait, let me do this one thing. Let me just do this one thing.
Because people don't understand that we are indebted to our husbands.
Right.
I don't care if you're Muslim or not.
Right.
Everybody, what kills me, and this may sound these a lot of the white liberal women that I'm going to mention that are pro everything,
right,
are the most subservient women to their
yes,
husbands.
they are. Yes, they are.
But what do they preach? They
It's a
preach.
facade.
It's a facade.
It's a facade
Say,
to destroy other families
oh my God,
while
we're
they are
like
happy in their homes. It's a complete facade. They probably are silent in their homes.
They're like, oh my goodness, husband, what do you want? They are
Yes.
subservient.
Yes.
I'm telling you because I know them personally.
I have seen a few.
My sister
I have seen a few.
is the most subservient wife to her Muslim husband. Even though she is not Muslim, she married an Egyptian. She is so subservient to him, and I applaud her for her like the way she is with him.
Right.
But she is very vocal and very loud
Right.
in reference to the rights of other
Right.
people.
Right.
But it's not a practice what you preach type of situation.
No. And it rarely is. And when I see some of these women in the workplace, I say they have no voice at home. They have no voice at home. I got a little bit of voice. My husband, alhamdulillah, we converse. And he asks me what I want and what I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I know not everybody has that.
No, not everybody.
Not everybody has that. But he'll say,
may Allah protect you. I mean,
what do you want to do? I mean, what do you want to do? What do you want?
mm-hmm.
And that was hard for me at first. Like even something simple as what you want for dinner. I'd be like, whatever you like. Like in Coming to America, whatever you like. And he'd be like, no. Why is this so difficult for you? I'm like, it's whatever you want. That's
I don't want to disappoint him.
Right. And that was hard for me at first. Like, I want lamb chops tonight. Like I know you want chicken, but I want lamb chops. And and it was just one of these things. Like, okay, so we have lamb chops tonight. We have chicken tomorrow, or whatever. And he's like, why are you making it so difficult?
And he doesn't understand it. It's the shyness and the
right.
You don't want to disappoint him and you want to.
Right.
But sometimes for me, honestly, when I don't want to mess up for my husband, and I like get overwhelmed with the way I think, and I'm like, oh my goodness,
right.
What if I mess up and then I mess up and I'm like, oh my God, he's gonna be so disappointed. And
right.
I mean, and I had to kind of get over that because I would like get in this mood and I would like get in my funk and I would just overthink it. So now I learned to take one bite at a time.
Right.
So, and I think a lot of people don't like, you should know your husband from front to back.
Right.
I know like certain cues with my husband when I'm saying something inappropriate because I talk too much sometimes because he's the quiet one unless you get to know him. So I know when I'm going to say something, he's like, he gives me that look.
Right.
It's not like a deterring look. It's more of an embarrassing look.
Right.
Like, so you should know these little cues about your husband. Right. So my husband is not a dictator. He's like, he'll let you make your mistakes, but then you know his rules.
Right.
So
right. My husband is not a dictator either. He works in a job where he's the boss. Mm-hmm. And so like every once in a while I have to tell him, don't come in here interrogating me. Right. And then he'll take it as a joke. I'm like, uh-oh, how did he take it? Mm-hmm. And then he took it really good. And then he'll laugh or whatever. And he'll be like, babe, I'm sorry, my bad. And I'm like, don't you come in here trying to be interrogating me. And he's like, my bad. But, I'm very grateful because some women, they don't have that.
They don't.
They don't have.
I mean, I was married twice before and I had different situations. But the thing about it, I don't think we're patient enough.
Right.
I feel like if I was patient, instead of being hasty in my willingness to be married,
right,
I would have, not that I don't know Allah, Allah Alam, like it would have been a bit different.
Right.
I was so desperate to get out of my household situation. I was willing to marry any strong Salafi brother, even though, I knew my value, but I just was like, I
Right.
need to get out of here. And I think also, like, before your daughter gets married, make sure she's not making a decision out of desperation. Make sure your
Right.
household is good.
Right. Right. So we have said to her, because she's like, oh, I'm going to LA for college. So I said, babe, we got to move to LA. We have to go to school in LA. And he's like,
Right?
yeah. She's like, what? No, no, no. I'm like, he's like, yeah, the palm trees are nice. The weather is nice. It would be nice for us.
Mm-hmm.
No, where are you going without us? We're here together, And she sees her brothers, because alhamdulillah, we have one of my sons has a child, he has a wife, everything's going good. He moved away. That's not your reality, my dear. Like, that's not gonna happen for you. So she's going to school in LA. Oh my gosh, we're going to LA. And I think she didn't expect that, because she has everything she needs here. She
Yeah.
has everything she needs here. And I remember I did something on child trafficking. And they were saying these pimps will buy your daughter those $300 sneakers that you will not. Excuse me. And she may only wear them once before they take them from her after they sell her body. But the lure of those sneakers is what will get her to leave your home. So you make sure you give your daughters, we don't want to say we give them everything they want,
Mm-hmm.
but you make sure your children know the values, and you make sure they don't need anything.
Mm.
That's straight parenting, because that's what they're doing right out here in Philadelphia,
Wow.
trafficking these girls.
We're going to have to do a whole different situation on that one because that's deep.
Yeah, that's what they said. It was such a situation. They were like, yeah, gold chain got your daughter. She's gone. You'll never see her again, and she's 5 blocks away from you.
Yeah. But it's
That's
with your sons
serious.
too. It's with your sons too.
Yeah.
Because like I grew up in Philadelphia and I seen how my family raised their boys.
Right,
And the streets took them. The you know, even though it's weird because my father he gave us every opportunity not to be this way.
right,
And because of certain things that they neglected as parents, and I would say my father and my mother, um, my brothers and sisters made certain decisions that affected their lives.
right.
And honestly, I learned from them. I was like, yeah, I see that. Not gonna be me.
I don't want it. Yeah,
I don't want
yeah,
it. You can have it. Keep it. I wasn't ready.
yeah, yeah,
So, um, it was difficult just seeing them growing up and the decisions that they made,
right,
and I was like, I'm gonna grip my kids up and I'm gonna make sure, even especially my boys.
right,
And when my husband came in my life, I had two boys. I was married twice, and one thing I knew that my mom didn't do, allow my father to be
to be a father.
ruler of the household.
Right,
And there were certain situations that happened, but overall, to me, not allowing the man to be the ruler of the household
right,
is probably like the number one reason for divorce.
right,
And it was I mentioned this was like one time when we first got married, my son was being disobedient, and my husband, when we first got married, he looked at me and he said, "You let me do this now, or we're not doing this at all." So it was him telling me, "You allow me to be the man of these kids that you want me to take care of, because you asked me to take care of them when you
right,
got married, or you don't, and this doesn't have to be anymore."
right,
So listen. I was with it. He didn't have to. I was like, "Go ahead, do you?"
right, right. And you know what? And unfortunately, there are some men who come into a situation for a wife and not a family. And those are two different things,
Mhm. Those
right?
are.
Because remember, the hadith says, everybody gets what they intend, right? Actions are judged by your intentions. and every person's going to get what they intend. So if you migrate for such and such, you'll get such and such,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you migrate to that place for a wife, that's what you're going to get. And if it's not for the pleasure of Allah and everything that comes with it, because everything we do is an act of ibadah, right? So taking care of somebody's children that's not yours, you get the reward for it, right? So if you come for a wife, that's all you want, that's what you got.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, sometimes we see that. And the children from the previous marriage or whatever, they suffer because they see you, you come in, mom has another baby because she's got a husband. But what about me?
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that your husband has enough wisdom to say, you got to take your hands off of this and let me handle this because I'm the man.
Yeah.
So, and it may be hurtful because you're like, no, these are my babies. But
It
you got
was.
to take your hands off of it.
I literally I wanted a husband because I know my limitations. If I had a girl, I probably could handle it.
Right.
I know my limitations, and I know because of what I've seen with my mother and my sisters and how they raise their kids. I know that I couldn't raise a man. I know it's a possibility for women to raise men, but I wanted a certain kind of man. To
Right.
I wanted to produce a certain kind of man. So
Right.
with those men that I wanted to produce, I needed a strong foundation.
Right.
So going into the marriages, yes, I made mistakes being hasty before. I wanted a particular kind of man. I when I came into marriage, I know I didn't want an entrepreneur. I was looking for a 401k type dude.
Right.
My father was, I wanted someone that had work ethics like my father. And people don't understand that because everybody's like, oh, he's an entrepreneur, he got his own business. When you got your own business, most likely you broke. And I'm not trying to say
Right.
anything about that, but I was looking for a man who was stable in his job. I asked him how long he worked. Our sit down was not Islamic, it was Islamic, but I'm saying like it wasn't me asking him where's the law. You know where law. I wasn't wasting no time. How much you getting paid? He told me how much he was getting paid, and the reason he was so impressed with me because I was like, so how much you getting paid? He was like da 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 da. So I pulled him my phone. So including bills, how much is this? So he was like, he told me, he pulled me like when we got married. He was like, I never knew a woman who did that, who understood the value of $1.
Right.
Because because I was like, that's not enough. I was like, that's not enough. How are we gonna do this? And you got how many kids?
Right.
So I told him from the gate, and I wasn't going to work. So people don't understand before you get married, it should legit be a business transaction.
Right.
Like all the feelings, all the he's so cute.
Right.
I'm like, you look at him, mashallah, I can deal with it. Okay, his face is all right.
Right.
His body's good. You get that first initial, okay, glance. Go ahead, do what you want to do. But now let's talk business. How much you get paid?
Right.
How you got 401k?
Right. But now we gotta get down to the logistics. Right.
But the sit downs are not that anymore. The sit downs are more him trying to impress you with his Islam, which is fake to me.
Right.
So why are we not talking or teaching the kids what proper questions to ask?
Right.
Because I know my kids, I talk to my boys about every single thing.
Right. And it's very important. It's important because you can't come to me now. Listen, there are some brothers that work wherever they work and they're able to make it happen. But maybe they don't have any kids. Maybe the sister they looking to marry doesn't have any kids.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the sister doesn't want to work anymore. Maybe she wants to stay home. You can't count her income. You can't count her income. And again, Allah blessed me. My husband don't count my income. And I make more money than him. He don't count my income. Everything that comes from my purse is a gift. It's a gift.
Mm-hmm.
Because he takes care of it all.
And I never had to pay a bill. Like I never had to do anything. And you should strive for that. I think once we as women make that decision and come in with it, say, I'm not paying no bills. I'm not doing this. No more. Oh, I live in Section 8, so you got to worry about that.
No.
No more.
No.
There, you ain't got to worry about that.
No.
Stop.
Take me out of this Section 8. That's right. Take me out of this Section 8. and pay market value for a place for me to live. And make sure I have groceries more than oodles and noodles.
Get out of my face.
And, and I mean, listen, that's not even a nutritious meal.
It's not. It was one time that my sisters and them came over, and it was like an awkward question. It was like, "How come every time we come over, your pantry's always stocked?" I'm like, "What you mean?
Right.
Like, wait, he eat, we eat, we
Right.
eat together." So
Right.
it was a weird question of mine. Like, it was just like, I don't know. It was uncomfortable because I'm like, what do you want me to say about? Because you can tell that they were talking about that kind of stuff. It was like a joke to them. Like,
Well, the pantry is supposed to be full. It's not supposed to have dust and crumbs. It's supposed to have boxes and cans and jars.
can't junk food
Right.
said that too.
And it's supposed to have all those things. Well, I'm a nurse. I can't I can't tell you to eat junk food.
I'll tell you. Like,
But
no, y'all gotta be losing your weight because y'all still gotta be fit for your man, okay?
right. You've got to be able to get up and down the stairs and walk a block if he wants to take you on a walk.
But you gotta listen. All right, let's talk about health and fitness now. So, and everything is going around husband because the husband is the foundation of the family.
Right.
And this is what I want to encourage, and this I want everybody to understand
Right.
and see for their own self. You got to be fit for your man.
Right.
Like, I know after having babies, my first two kids, I lost the weight like that. Mind you, I was 21 when I had them.
Right.
I told my story. I was breastfeeding. I was tangent breastfeeding because I had babies back to back, and it wasn't, and it's still not as easy for me to lose weight because I'm now 33.
Right.
So when I was 21, then 33, the weight is not working like way it used to.
Right.
So I got to work extra hard to still keep up with what I'm doing, and I'm not even saying I'm there. But if your husband say something to you, don't be offended.
Right.
He's looking out for you.
He is. He is. He is. He is. My husband on the other end, he's like, "What are you doing? Are you trying to disappear?" And I got to a point where I'm like, I can't go in here and tell these people lose weight, change your lifestyle, lose weight, and I'm around here with a tire around my waist.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to tell him, I'm like, babe, I cannot promote health if I am myself am not healthy.
Mm-hmm.
It cannot happen. We used to say back in the day, the nurses would tell them, stop smoking, you get lung cancer. And the nurses and the doctors would be on the side of the hospital smoking.
Okay.
Right. And they're like, yeah, I believe you. I believe everything you say. And I want my patients to believe me, believe in me.
Mm-hmm.
And when they see me, they say she sincerely cares. And she's living what she's preaching. I don't want to be a hypocrite. And so I go out and I walk around my neighborhood. My husband and I, we walk around. He had a heart attack. And that was a wake-up call for him. Because I had told him, you need to get it together. And his whole thing was, you ain't my doctor. I said,
yes, I am.
like, I'll get ready to be. I'm finna be. And he was like, I'm not listening to you. And when we went in there with his cardiologist, his cardiologist looked like he was enlightened. And when I started talking, he didn't have anything to say. He just walked right out the room. He said, all right, Mr. Ali, have a good day. You should listen to your wife. And he walked out. He didn't give him any recommendations. He was like, all right, Mr. Ali.
They don't appreciate us. They don't appreciate us.
No. But I think he's like, well, what do you think about cinnamon?
What about this herb?
Right. So now he's like, well, what do you think about this? And I'm like, well, I put it in your tea. So, oh, you do? I'm like, yeah, I do. I put cinnamon in your tea. I put it in your oatmeal. I put it in your food. So, I put garlic in your stuff. You don't notice it. Your blood pressure's getting better. Your sugars are getting better.
Alhamdulillah.
Right. And so he's like, oh, well, maybe you know one or two things.
Just a little bit. He gave you a little bit.
Right,
Going a little bit. A little bit.
right, just a little bit. But I can see the difference in him too. We can walk further now. They want to give him cardiac rehab. He's like, my wife will take care of it. And I'm like, okay, buddy, well, let's get up and do it then. And so we increased. He's walking over 3 miles now. So he's doing much better. So, and that's what I want for my patients. When they see me out in the neighborhood, because at one time I used to do visiting nursing right here in my own neighborhood. And I would walk from one patient to another, pulling my bag. I wouldn't drive. And they would be like, oh, there's my nurse. There's my nurse. And I would see them in the supermarket and stuff, and they would know. They would look at my cart to see what I'm getting and all that. So I don't want to be a hypocrite. I want to learn, and then I want to lead by example. So everything I learn, I disseminate it to my patients, So.
So let's talk about men's health, since we just put that up.
Yeah.
I'm writing a list of things that we talked about so I can put it in the title. So let's talk about proper cleaning.
Right.
The situation, and then we can go into more topics.
Right.
So go ahead.
So the thing with men is they are the prototype, right? Whether we want to acknowledge it or not. Men, we come from them. We come from their rib, right? So most medicine is based on the male perspective, right? So the same way, like they should be circumcised if they're not. They've got to learn to pull back their foreskin and clean up under there real good. Otherwise, they put themselves at risk for infections that they can give to their partners. So I do a lot of that teaching, mostly with the boys that are between like that 11 and 15. Because once they turn 16, they start taking baths properly. They start taking showers properly and all.
Because I got a 12-year-old. I'm having issues. Right? You gonna be mad at me.
Right. So before that, you really got to stay behind them. And, you have to teach them everything. You have to teach them the same way with their stingia, but the different things that they got to do. We definitely want to teach them to sit down when they go to the bathroom, unless they're in public.
Yeah.
Relax yourself, sit down, get a proper emptying, and then, clean yourself properly, right? And even if you tell them something, because we all want to please Allah, right? Even from the time we're children, we know it. And we say, Allah only accepts that was pure. So when you tell them this, they say, okay, because I want to do a good job. Right? Because they follow dad when he prays. Right? So they want to clean the way he does. Right? Like you tell your kids, when you take them out of training pants, you tell them, don't you want to wear drawers like daddy? Right? And now what you tell them? Don't you want to wear big boy underwear? Want to look good like daddy? Get your hair cut like daddy? This is what we tell them. But you want to pray like daddy too. You don't want to be stinking because daddy don't stink. Right? So these are the things that you tell them. Got to wash behind your ears. See, boys got a different type of dirt.
They got a different type of dirt.
Girls. You got to wash. Yeah, they got a different type of dirt. They got to wash behind your ears. They do. They do. I got them 2 boys. I've been through the stages with the dirt with them boys.
Oh, gosh.
Get in that shower. Make sure you scrub your hair real good. Don't just pass the water on it. You got to scrub it with some soap and water. Get you some shampoo.
Listen, you got to send them back if they don't do it again.
Right. Go back. I still see something. Right. Yeah, don't forget your underarms. You gotta count to 20 or something. You gotta get under there. I used to make them count. Just get 20 times. You can do it. Just keep going. Do the other one. Up and down your legs. And eventually they get it. They get it. Because if you're hollering at them, they may not get it.
Okay, maybe I gotta stop hollering.
Yeah, you might have to stop hollering. But you make everything like a joke. Everything is a counting game. Everything is a fun thing. And they get it. Get in between them toes. Because you don't want them to smell like corn chips after you get out the shower. Right?
So for the men who are not circumcised, Would you suggest they get circumcised?
So, I mean, I tell them do what Allah and His messages say do. If you Muslim,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if Allah and His messages say you're supposed to be circumcised, then that's what you're supposed to do.
I mean, if you become Muslim or something, I know.
Yeah, you should. If you can tolerate it, if you can tolerate the procedure, I would say yes.
Because I had a family member get circumcised at a very late age, and I don't think there's anesthesia.
Well, here's the thing: is they give you those medications to take after. They will numb it with a lidocaine or a local, but because of where it's located at, it's not too much they can do. And they won't even put you to sleep because it's a quick procedure. Right. Yeah, I know someone who had one done after converting to Islam.
Mm-hmm.
And they said the pain was something that was like they couldn't explain it. They couldn't explain it. But it's just like any other pain. It only gets better.
Mm-hmm.
If the pain does not get better, then there's a chance it's an infection. So you got to clean and take good care of it. So, but there's a lot of health reasons that they say that men should be circumcised.
But people are actually going to get circumcision, saying that it's tribalistic, or saying that it's not important. And a lot of people, or not a lot of people, but from what I'm reading, are going against it.
Well, no, well, I don't know, because medicine changes when the opinions change and the theories change. It changes. But what I know is that there's infection that lives underneath there, right? And if you're not the cleanest of persons, you're supposed to get a circumcision. And they will tell you that because certain diseases, even certain STDs, live up underneath there. And if you're not being clean, you're going to transmit those diseases. And so I've always been an advocate of circumcision.
Okay. What do you say to people who are anti-vaxxers?
I say, again, do your research. If you're an anti-vaxxer, you may want to keep your children to yourself. There are whole communities of people, and I've encountered them when I lived in New York. And I used to do audits, medical audits, for insurance. And they would always fail because they didn't vaccinate. And then, the good thing is the school districts are saying you can't bring your children here if you don't get them vaccinated. Right. I remember when we moved from New York to Pennsylvania, they were like, oh, your kids don't have the varicella. I said, yes, they do. Oh, no. In Pennsylvania, you need to. I said, why? Come to find out, there was an outbreak of the chicken pox again in Pennsylvania that was really, really bad. And so now in Pennsylvania, they require 2 varicella vaccines, whereas in New York, they didn't. So that's one of the things we had to do. And I was like on board with it, like, here, get your vaccine. Even with the HPV vaccine. And I know a lot of people don't like to discuss it. They don't want to talk about sex with their children.
We talking about it.
Right. But, if you can prevent HPV, the human papillomavirus that causes cervical cancer, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you save your children if you could? And lessen the likelihood of them getting diseases that could kill them.
Well, what about how they do things in the drug companies, or the people who had bad reactions to it? And I don't know if you ever seen the movie that was surrounding the anti-vaxxer movement. What about all the claims that they were saying in reference to the kids getting, autism, and all the records that they were showing? Like, how do we combat that? Like, and especially if we can't sue the companies, or we can't get any kind of anything, or they make it seem like, oh, well, my son's autistic because of, because they're raining outside.
Hold on. Remember those greens that I put on? I got to check on those greens. Hold on.
You got to go get greens. We're going to wait for her. So You guys start asking questions. We're here right now. We're looking for people to ask questions. If you have any medical concerns, I will keep your name anonymous. Well, people won't see it on. So we need to have be aware of you have opportunity right now to ask questions. Any kind of healthcare questions you have concerns about, any COVID questions she can possibly answer. Come on and ask, because we've been on for about an hour now. We got a good amount of people looking, but we need to honestly get some more questions, some more people aware of what's going on.
But if they don't have questions now, they can probably post their questions later, because in a little while I have to go to the job that they pay me to do. But yeah, I would say to the anti-vaxxers, how can we definitively say it? If everybody's getting vaccinated, how can we know whether or not it's some other factor that leads to it? And then how do we answer the question of those that don't get vaccinated and still have those same diseases and those same illnesses?
That's a good point. So, is there anything you want to tell people about healthcare that you want to plug in, that you want to bring to attention? Because there's a lot of questions, a lot of misconceptions, a lot of everything out there. Right. Can you bring us some clarification on anything?
So the biggest thing that I can say is some of the reasons why we don't do as well as other races in terms of diseases, because we ignore things. If you feel a pain, go to your doctor.
I will. You know what I was saying on that one? Because when you go to your doctor, they make you feel stupid.
Do they?
They make me feel stupid. I had a lot of issues with taking medication, and they told me, because I was taking Paxil, I have ADHD. They told me I was depressed, and I was taking Paxil, Adderall, and I had the flu, and they put me on Tamiflu, and I had stroke-like symptoms.
Right.
So I had to learn how to walk, talk, even go to the bathroom again, because I didn't have a brain stroke, but I had a stroke. I had stroke symptoms.
Right.
And I kept on having these same symptoms for like almost a year, and they kept on telling me I need more medication.
Right.
Telling me that it was me.
Right.
I had 4 kids and I was a woman,
right.
and
right.
they hated this. That my life is so stressful because I have 4 kids and I'm married.
Right.
They didn't listen to me.
Right. So your voice is your weapon, right? And I just can't wait to be the premier provider for all of my women and children. I just can't wait, because we need to trust the healthcare system again.
We can't.
Right. And I hear that so many times. They're like, they don't listen to me. I don't trust them. And to point with the vaccine, a lot of people go all the way back to the Tuskegee experiment, and they have not forgotten how penicillin would have cured those men with syphilis. Instead, they watched them to see how the syphilis would react in their brains years after they knew that penicillin would treat the syphilis. So a lot of us go back to that and say, I remember the Tuskegee experiment. Remember that movie on HBO, Miss Evers Boys? They ain't gonna treat me like that. And a lot of it is we're not represented in healthcare. If we were more represented in healthcare, people would say, I trust her. She's my neighbor. She grew up in my neighborhood. Like me. I'm just a Black girl from the projects in Brooklyn.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So when people call me and they ask me things, it's because they trust me.
Yeah.
Right?
I get that from you.
Right.
It's not very many sisters. It's not very many people you can trust. But even, I think it's the healthcare, because even I had a Black, I was pregnant with my daughter, and they told me I had a cyst on my left ovary, and it was bothering me so bad. And they made it seem like I was making it up. And they found the cyst. And then when they finally removed it, they said it was big. And they didn't apologize, because when I went to the doctors, I complained. They made it seem like I was being extra. And it was a Black doctor.
Right.
It seemed like, oh, she's just being extra.
Right.
I was going through a lot of pain.
Right. Unfortunately, they don't treat pain in African Americans and brown people the way they do in whites. And they've done studies on this many, many times over. In fact, there is a black doctor that just died a couple of weeks ago in the hospital with COVID, and she was explaining to them she's in pain, she's in pain. They knew she was a physician, they still didn't treat her. We've seen studies where whites and blacks go in undercover and they'll say, I've got the same symptoms. I need help. And the black people, they'll give them Tylenol. And the whites, they'll give them like Percocets or Vicodin and not check to see anything. So, number one, we have to be our own advocate. Number two, if you can't advocate for yourself because you don't have health literacy, find someone who can be your advocate, right? Don't just take that as your answer. Get a second opinion and a third. It's your body, it's your life. There is someone that you're going to look at them. I mean, a lot of times when we see these doctors, we know they're shady by the way they walk in the room. And you say, oh, I need somebody else. And it's your right to say, I need somebody else.
You can ask for someone else.
Yes.
It seems like we work together. It's like they whisper, and then when they come in, they act like they wasn't just talking about you. Like it's that bad because like I had appendicitis and I got my appendix removed. So I was having issues and I was almost septic. So I called the doctor who did the surgery and he called me back and he was like, well, I'm sorry, I wouldn't have let you leave the hospital the same day, but you told me you had a couple kids and I thought you could take the pain. He told me that. And I'm like, I had really bad issues with doctors and I don't trust them.
Right.
So it's like they're not trying to fix it though. They are not trying to fix it.
I believe that's a small percentage. I want to tell you this, and I want to tell you why. We spend so many years in school. 6, 7, 8. This is my 8th year in school now. I was counting in my head how many years I've been in school. Mm-hmm. How much debt that I could have incurred, but I don't have any debt. But the majority of medical professionals really do care. It's unfortunate when you live in the inner cities where, most of the people go that have the drug problems or they don't, regardless. If you've got pain, you've got pain. Whether you're on drugs or not, they need to give you more pain medicine. That's just the way it goes. And a lot of times we have to take our bias out of these things, right? Because I'm here to do a service and provide you with a service. Mm-hmm. And that's all I'm here to do, right? A lot of times I know nurses and doctors, they pray before they start their shifts. Mm-hmm. They make supplications and do, Allah, guide my hands and my heart. Allow me to be successful with whatever I have to do today. And then they begin their day. It's unfortunate there are some godless people, but many really do care and really do want to help. But I would say be your advocate and stop being a strong person. When you're sick, you're sick. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I don't know. I'm sick. I'm in pain. I can't go home. You have to be your own advocate. And like I said, if you can't be your own advocate for whatever reason, find somebody who can. Text somebody. These hospitals have advocates. They won't tell you. There are people sitting in the hospitals that get paid to speak for you on your behalf. Mm-hmm. It's important. And if you know that you're not going crazy and you're really in pain, or you really feel a lump in your breast or something, or your breathing isn't well, don't sit on it. Mm. If you've got a back pain that you just can't get rid of and you've taken Tylenol and ibuprofen, it's still there, go see what it is. It could be your kidneys. Mm. Go to the doctor. And if you're unhappy and they're paid to take care of you, go find you another physician, find you another clinician who can.
Okay. You got to go to work, lady.
Yes, honey.
Anything you want to plug? Any other businesses that you can try to make some more money on the side? Because listen, this sister's trying to finish her degree. And her. She's trying to do it out of riba. Inshallah, may Allah make her successful. So what we're going to do is we're going to support her. Let's know what businesses we can, so what services you provide, even if you want to donate, whatever the situation is. We're going to get her her graduated.
Oh, thank you. So I do make custom tumblers. I make custom T-shirts. I've started branching into making Afghan blankets. I wish I had them in here, so that I could show it to you. I also do tutoring. I do nursing tutoring for nursing students who just can't figure out how to get through their classes, and maybe they need to look at things differently from a nurse's lens. So I do that as well. And That's where I'm at right now. And inshallah, next year I'll be opening practice. I'm looking at a location in Maryland, so this
Wait,
thing is coming to fruition.
you're having your own practice.
Yes.
I didn't know that you was opening up your whole situation, girl.
Yes.
Girl,
Yes. I'm not working for anybody. I'm claiming financial independence from these folks.
y'all better start donating. You better, whoever looking for investors, y'all better do what y'all gotta do.
Yeah, I'm definitely I'm claiming financial independence from these folks. I'm trying to help my community, help us to get to a place where we can have some equity in healthcare, a place where we can go where we feel safe. My husband, he's probably going to come in and do some social services because he's trying to get that master's in social work so we can work together.
Oh,
People where they need to be.
It's a deal. Oh yeah.
Yes, we want to be that power couple, inshallah.
Yes, I'm telling y'all better support this couple. Ain't no complaining. The brothers, I don't want my wife going to no male physicians, all this other stuff.
Right
here, Allah gave us a solution, especially if you live up north. Do what y'all got to do. Support this sister. Invest in her. Y'all better get it on it. All right, but she got to go to work now, y'all.
All right.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.